Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you today with a book chat. I recently read a middle grade, probably upper elementary or middle grade book by Mike Lupica, and it was called Batting Order. This is a 2019 book from Simon & Schuster, and it has 293 pages, and as you can see from the cover, it's about baseball, or that's kind of what the story centers around, is baseball. And I wanted to recommend this book to you guys because it is an excellent book for middle grade. Now, when I start looking at middle grade books and books that I would, suggest my young readers in my classroom to go look for, I want to find books that are going to be meaningful. They're going to be entertaining in one respect, but meaningful in the other. And this book hits both of those. One of the things that we struggle with as middle school teachers is a lot of times there are, I would say a majority of the boys in the grades, they don't read a lot. It has become, at this point, with middle school moving into high school, it has become uncool, unpopular to read or to be smart. Everybody, it's almost a stigma. I hate that. I have to battle that all the time. I think teachers across the nation have to battle that. But I have found that we can keep our young readers if we can find, topics that interest them. And a lot of times with the middle grade kids, what interests them is sports. I always see my kids reading sports, especially like this last 8th grade class. That's all the boys were into, was sports. And so if I can find some good sports books that'll hook them, I definitely want to be able to recommend them. And again, I would recommend Mike Lupica in his book Batting Order. Now, Mike Lupica is a sports writer, and he's a very good writer. If you've never read his work, you need to read his work. He writes adult stuff, and he writes for younger readers. So in this book, this is a book that's got two or three main characters here. The main character that is kind of from his point of view, the narration is done by a boy named Matt. And Matt is a very, very good baseball player. He's a little bit small in stature, but he can hit for average, and every once in a while he's got a little pop to his bat. He's a very good fielder. He's a second baseman, and he is like Mr. Baseball, because all the other sports, he's just not big enough for. So he loves baseball. He's always had a knack for it. And the other boy on the team that this kind of centers around is a boy named Ben. He's the first baseman on the team, and he is a great big kid, and he can hit the ball a long, long way. He is a home run hitter. He's got an uppercut to his swing, and he can crush a baseball. The only problem is he can also strike out a lot, as you will see if you've ever been around baseball with younger players who think they can hit home runs. They might hit one every once in a while, but they're going to strike out a whole lot in the process. And so Ben is that boy. Now, Matt's, dream for his team is that Ben becomes more of a hitter that can hit for average and hit ropes into the outfield, hit line drives. And as we go through this story, we start learning a little bit about the family situations of the boys. And Matt he lives in a single parent family. His dad left him when he was younger, and so he just lives with his mom. Now, fortunately for him, his mother was a really good softball player, really good athlete, played college ball, and she has passed that love down to Matt. And she has been his teacher all along, and she has always been a advocate for Matt. Now, at the same time, she also believes in, dedicating yourself and hard work, and, it'll all pay off. And so she doesn't step in as her role as parent. She does not step in between herself and the coach. She lets the coach, but she's given her son a lot of good tools to work with, not just on the field, but just, mental stuff and that hard work and dedication. Matt, on the other hand, Ben, the other character, Ben, on the other hand, is a little bit the opposite of that. And he is also, at this moment in the story, a single parent family. He lives with his dad because his mom walked out. Now, Ben's dad is a little bit different character. He is crush the ball, son, crush the ball, and he doesn't worry about hitting for average or being a team player or anything like that. It's all about his son. It's all his son or nothing, and it's all about being as manly as possible. And he has no room for sensitivity or anything like that. And so this whole book, even though it centers around baseball, it also centers around the dynamics of a single-parent household and what single parents go through as they're teaching their kids how to deal with these different situations. And throughout the book, they hit all kinds of situations. And these boys, they have played spring baseball, and they were all good enough. All the ones that are on this team, the Astros, they are currently going into summer all-stars. And so the Astros is like an all-star team. And all these guys that are going to be in this are all-star players. They're good players. I found the book to be very, very interesting because just getting done with my baseball season, we saw a lot of the same situations with the different player dynamics within our team as I did in this story. So it was very, very interesting to read. One thing that I would point out is in this book, it's supposed to be Little League, but the way that Mike Lupica writes it, it almost sounds like a high school age almost. The situations that they're dealing with and how the kids play, like just their abilities. I know I coach high school. We don't have a lot of home runs hit. We don't have a whole lot of home run hitters. And in this book, it seems like all the teams have home run hitters and there's home runs hit in every game. And that part of the story was a little bit maybe a little bit out there, and maybe other teams out there have a bunch of home run hitters, but all the little league stuff that I've ever seen, there hasn't been a whole lot of home runs hit. That was probably the only one problem that I saw with the story. But Mike Lupica does an excellent job in this middle grade book. Like all good middle grade writers, he hits on situations and scenarios that young readers are facing, and he shows them, this is a problem, that these are some ways that we can solve it, some positive ways that we can get through this. And so that is one reason I really like this book. I think it's something that kids in my classroom could really get something out of. I got this from the library, but I think I'm going to try to buy it for my classroom. I think it'd be worth their time reading it. But anyway, as this story progresses, we find that the all-star team's coach just uses parents along the way to go coach first base and be the assistant. And Matt's mom becomes available to coach first base. And it doesn't take long before the coach says, hey, you want to be our permanent first base coach and help us in practice and everything else. And she becomes a true asset to the team. She knows her stuff. And so in the book, as she starts to coach these boys, of course, we get this male versus female attitude in this, male sport, which it does not have to be a male sport. That's one of the main points in this. So there's this battle in this book where Mike Lupica is showing kids that girls can do stuff too. And she becomes a very big asset to this team, and there's a point in the book where the main coach has a rule that you run everything out. You hit the ball, doesn't matter if it's a little dribbler, a drive to the outfield fence, a pop-up that's probably going to be an out. It doesn't matter. You run everything out. You do a hard 90. You get all the way, run it out, get to first base. No matter if you're safe or out, you run all the way through first base. And there's a point in the story where Ben does not do that. He hits a little blooping pop-up and it gets caught. It was very obvious it was going to be an out, but he's trotting towards first, and lo and behold, the ball gets dropped. And it should have changed the outlook of the game. They should have been able to get him on base with guys in running or scoring position. They should have been able to, score a bunch of runs in that inning, and he ends up getting thrown out, and it totally changes the dynamics of the inning. And so Matt's mom was acting as head coach during the game because the main coach couldn't get to the game. He got stuck in traffic at his other job. And so following the head coach's rules, she sat Ben down on the bench, because if you don't run stuff out, then you're going to sit and watch everybody. And Ben's dad goes ballistic and comes in and just has a very, very nasty argument with the mother. And so we get this sexism that is very apparent in here. And that's going to be another thing that they battle through the book. And I can tell you right now, in our middle school classroom, this is something that young men face. If they do not have good role models, if their parents aren't being good role models in how to, as men, how do we act towards women and equality and all of that kind of stuff. If it's not there, things can get ugly. I've seen it, and it's just not good. And so Mike Lupica puts that into the story, and as the story goes, Ben is actually going to learn some lessons in this book a lot faster than his dad does. And so we see that through the whole book. And throughout the whole book, the team starts winning. Despite Ben striking out a bunch and not really being probably as productive as he could be, the team is winning. And we're going to follow that team throughout the season. And towards the end of the season, we're going to find ourselves in the tournaments. And then if we win the tournament, we move on to the state tournament. And so I don't want to spoil the book, but that's kind of the build-up and what it's leading to. So I would like to highly recommend this book. If you've never read any of Mike Lupica's stuff, go find it, go read it. He's an excellent writer. I would recommend this as a middle grade book, but it's not just about baseball. The obvious is baseball. Yes, it has baseball running through it, but it also has this idea of how young people can work their way through this idea of sexism, that it doesn't have to be there. Equality between men and women. It works its way through, being the little guy versus the big guy, and being a team player. And I mean, there's just so much stuff in this book. Mike Lupica does an excellent job. So BookTube, if I was to give this book a rating, I would probably rate it 4 out of 5, and it was only a 4 just because of the whole baseball part. I felt may have been a little more advanced than what Little League actually is, and I don't know, maybe I haven't seen enough Little League. But anyway, I thought it was an excellent book. I would recommend it. You don't have to be a young reader. You can be an older reader and still enjoy this. I know I did. It only took me a couple of days. You can probably read it in a whole afternoon. But if you want a quick read about baseball and some other issues that young people deal with, try this book, Batting Order by Mike Lupica. Thank you, BookTube. I hope everyone's having a great day. Thank you for watching. And till next time, happy reading.